Good evening, I'm Hafiz Marzukhi. Our top stories for tonight. Trump says he will not be intimidated by Putin at the summit. And Modi urges India to pursue self-reliance, vows to protect farmers. All this and more coming up on AWANI International. Now, our first story, United States President Donald Trump says he will not be intimidated by Russian leader Vladimir Putin ahead of a high-stakes summit in Alaska. He insists that, as president, he will not allow Putin to push him around.
Trump claimed that he would know within minutes whether the meeting was likely to be positive or negative. If the discussion went badly, he planned to end it quickly. If it went well, he believed peace could follow soon, though he estimated a 1 in 4 chance of failure. Putin was scheduled to arrive in Alaska on Friday at Trump's invitation. It would be his first visit to a Western country since the 2022 invasion of Ukraine, a war that had claimed tens of thousands of lives. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was not due to attend the summit. However, Trump maintained that Ukraine would be part of any agreement shaping its future.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi urges India to pursue greater self-reliance and manufacture products from fertilizers to jet engines and even EV batteries. Besides that, he also vows to protect farmers amid a trade conflict with Washington.
Modi announced reduced goods and services taxes from October, a move intended to boost domestic consumption. The move follows US President Donald Trump's recent 25% tariff on Indian goods, imposed over Russian oil imports and raising some duties to 50%, among the steepest faced by any US trading partner. Although Modi avoided direct mention of the tariffs, he reaffirmed his commitment to farmers, a key political bloc that forced him to repeal 3 farm laws in 2021 after mass protests. Meanwhile, he further announced plans to establish a new defense system called Sudarshan Chakra, following India's 4-day military conflict with Pakistan in May. According to a government statement, it is aimed at neutralizing enemy infiltrations and enhancing India's offensive capabilities.
We have more after the break. Stay tuned.
Di era digital, pemasaran bukan hanya tentang penjualan semata-mata. Penceritaan menarik jadi kekuatan dalam membina hubungan perniagaan, tingkat pengetahuan, perkasakan perniagaan anda. Saksikan segmen Jiwa SME dalam program Awani Pagi dan Niaga Awani setiap Isnin hingga Khamis di saluran 501. Dibawakan oleh penaja utama jelajah Jiwa SME, Unify Business, rakan digital pilihan anda.
Di dalam setiap berita yang dibawa, konteks amat penting. Kami sentiasa membawakan yang tergempar dan terkini. Pastikan Astro Awani menjadi pilihan anda, tidak kira di mana sahaja anda berada.
Thailand calls on donor countries, ASEAN partners and international organizations to pressure Cambodia to immediately end the use of anti-personnel mines and to work together on border mine clearance. In an exclusive interview with AWANI International, its ambassador to Malaysia, Lada Fumas, says the strategic objective is raised repeatedly with Phnom Penh, but is consistently rejected.
Thailand seeks to encourage donor countries, ASEAN partners, and also international organizations to press Cambodia to immediately cease the use of anti-personnel mines and to engage in joint mine clearance along the border. Our strategic objective, as I mentioned, and this is the issue that we have raised consistently with Cambodia, but has repeatedly been refused. We expect that the issue of demining will be addressed as a matter of priority at the upcoming the RBC Regional Border Committee and in the next GBC meeting.
Pumas also said on Saturday, Thai authorities will host foreign representatives to inspect the damage and receive details on the landmine incident that occurred along the border.
United States President Donald Trump apparently wants journalists to be allowed access to Gaza to observe humanitarian efforts. Now, his comment comes after an Israeli airstrike outside Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza City kills 5 Al Jazeera journalists, including correspondent Anas Al-Sharif.
On Sunday, Israel's military confirmed it had killed Al-Sharif, accusing him of leading a Hamas terrorist cell. The military said he was responsible for advancing rocket attacks against Israeli civilians and Israeli Defense Forces troops. Earlier in the week, European Union Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas condemned the killing of 5 Al Jazeera journalists. She acknowledged Israel's claim that the group were Hamas members, but said clear evidence was required to uphold the rule of law and prevent the targeting of journalists. Since the war began in October 2023, Israel has barred foreign reporters from entering Gaza unless under Israeli military escort.
Meanwhile, in Washington, United States President Donald Trump pledges to do everything in his power to assist Hong Kong media tycoon Jimmy Lai, who is imprisoned under Hong Kong's national security law. Known for his criticisms of Beijing, Lai is regarded by Chinese authorities as a leading instigator of anti-China activities.
Trump admitted that Chinese President Xi Jinping would not be pleased, but insisted he would explore every possible option. He also intends to raise Lai's detention during trade talks with China. Lai, aged 77, faces charges under Hong Kong's national security law, accused of conspiring with foreign forces and publishing seditious material. Lai, who has been in solitary confinement since December 2020 and denies all accusations. Western governments, including the United States, say his trial is politically motivated, a claim China firmly rejects. In Hong Kong, closing arguments in Lai's trial were halted on Friday after his lawyer reported that he had suffered heart palpitations.
Iran says it is working with China and Russia to block the return of European sanctions over its nuclear program. Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi tells state television that Tehran will make every effort to prevent the sanctions from being reimposed.
He added that if those efforts fail, Iran had tools to respond, the details of which would be revealed later. Britain, France and Germany, known as the E3, informed United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres that they were ready to act. They said sanctions would return if no diplomatic solution was reached by the end of August. All 3 nations were signatories to the 2015 agreement that eased sanctions in exchange for limits on Iran's nuclear activities. Araghchi described the possible return of sanctions as a negative step, but insisted the predicted economic impact had been overstated.
The United States has ordered the deployment of air and naval forces to the southern Caribbean Sea, aiming to counter Latin American drug cartels. US President Donald Trump has wanted to use the military against Latin American drug gangs, which he designated as global terrorist organizations.
The Pentagon was directed to prepare multiple operational options, and planners have developed strategies involving both air and naval assets. According to a U.S. official, the operation will continue for several months, and forces will operate in international airspace and waters. Trump has made cracking down on cartels a key administration goal, linking it to securing the U.S. southern border. In recent months, the administration deployed at least 2 warships to support border security and combat drug trafficking. The U.S. military has increased airborne surveillance of Mexican cartels to collect intelligence and guide counter-drug operations. Trump offered to send U.S. troops to Mexico against trafficking, but Mexico declined the offer.
Scientists warn that climate change is just one part of a broader environmental crisis, with growing risks to global health and stability. Maisara Faisal, Head of Policy, Strategy and Advocacy in Sunway Centre for Planetary Health, tells us more about this.
It's really easy to focus solely on climate change because it's such a pressing issue, and rightfully so. But what the commentary really intends to drive home is that it's just one piece of a much larger puzzle. And the full story here is really about the stability and resilience of the entire Earth system. So in other words, the planetary boundaries framework that's referred to in the commentary, and how human activity is pushing it to its limit. So put simply, if you read the commentary, there are 9 key processes that keep our planet stable. Climate change, of course, being one of them, but it also concerns about, for example, how land is being used, the levels of ocean acidification, and novel entities like plastics or microplastics. And the scary part is that 6 of these 9 identified boundaries that sustain human well-being on the planet have already been breached, meaning that we've gone beyond safe operating levels. So in addition to that, we also have issues like biodiversity loss and such. So the reality is that we want to make people see and understand that for each of these disruptions, individually and in combination for each of the planetary boundaries, it also affects human health and our health from, infectious and zoonotic diseases similar to COVID-19 as we know it, but also in terms of nutrition, of like food that we get from the plants that we produce and such, as well as, of course, our mental health. So the full story is really not just about rising temperatures, it's about a systemic threat to our well-being, stemming from multiple environmental crises happening all at once as a result of our own actions and the ways that we've treated the planet that we depend on.
Maisara also highlighted it's not just about understanding the crisis, but the key matter is about how we respond.
So what's interesting is that planetary health and planetary boundaries both are rooted in systems thinking and the need and urgency to break silos. So naturally, this alignment is meant to drive us to act more effectively, especially at a time when resources are constrained. I think maybe to summarize, first, of course, this alignment between planetary boundaries and planetary health enables a more systematic and comprehensive understanding of health impacts. We used to look at climate change and health or pollution and health in isolation. Now we can kind of conduct full health risk assessments for each planetary boundary. And this also includes assessing the risks of tipping points where changes become irreversible. And of course, secondly, it's about bridging gaps in the scientific community. For too long also, Earth system scientists and health scientists often speak in different languages and maybe sometimes even use different metrics. So this integration kind of demands a common approach in translating these complex environmental data into clear health outcomes and vice versa. But central to this, I think, is the role of justice and equity that's also highlighted in the commentary. And it's pushing for safe and just boundaries that recognizes how the current planetary crisis disproportionately impacts vulnerable populations. And finally, I think, as mentioned earlier, and so important for policy, is really making the invisible visible. What are maybe health co-benefits that we can get from protecting our planet, from investing in well-being economics in urban planning, for example. So this alignment really provides a stronger evidence-based argument for policies that protect nature and how they're often the most cost-efficient solutions in the long run.
That report wraps up AWANI International tonight. Stay tuned for our reports on the rivalries, strategies, and the shifts behind the power affairs driving the new global order. Visit international.astroawani.com for more. Be sure to follow our social media accounts as well. I'm Hafiz Marzukhi. Thank you for watching and good night.
Buli di sekolah. Isu ini bukan perkara baru.
Buli tertakluk